Welcome to question and answer session with the Silent One, a climate crisis street opera that went digital. My name is Elizabeth Sullivan, and I'll be facilitating, and we'll be taking questions and comments from Facebook Live. Marlo, wonderful Marlo, is on the other end feeding us questions. So a big thank you to everybody in the room. A big thank you to our audiences, to our supporters that made this project happen. It was really special, and you know, we went down a journey that we weren't expecting, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that was like tonight. It'll kind of also serve as a post-mortem in a way for us as artists to talk about, you know, the challenges, the successes, and what happened along the way in a virtual space, which we've never done before, which is exciting. So to give everybody out there just a really brief description, if you have not seen the video or are unfamiliar with the project, The Silent One is a climate crisis street opera. It was intended to be a live performance, and it was going to be performed this past weekend. But with everything happening, we took all of the elements that were supposed to happen and put them in a digital platform. And so that was supposed to happen at Art Emergency in the Warehouse District in East Lawrence, but it turned into a digital street opera instead this time around. It's a development piece by Rick Averell that introduces the art and mythology of environmental warrior Mamuko. And maybe Mamuko is out there in Facebook land. I hope so. I don't know, but it's been really cool getting to work with his art along the way. So the full work, the digital work, is comprised of 7 chapters, 6 chapters, with the 7th tonight being the full big digital story. And that was presented in the last 7 days. So our plan, our future plan, is to present a live version next year in May 2021. That's our hope, our desire, and we're really lucky that we got this chance to develop the piece and to work with all of these wonderful artists. So I want to take a moment to introduce everybody that's here in the room. If you would just wave when I say your name, that would be great. The first is Rick Averell. You give a wave, Rick. Rick is our artistic director of the piece and composer and musician. So he's really the brains and artistry behind the whole thing. Samaria Flagg. She's our technical director at the Art Center, production manager at the Art Center, and stage manager, organizer, putting this all together, creating all the documents and making sure everyone is communicating. Jason Badgett is our film editor. He's awesome and put this together really quickly. Kirsten Paladin, composer and musician. Juniper Tengpoos, designer of Talos, an artist, and made some puppetry out of some found objects. Rebecca Abrams, hair and makeup. Audrey Singer, performer and dancer, the Silent One. Jeff Stoltz, composer and musician. And Andrew Ramaley, performer and played Talos. So that's our crew tonight. There are other people that are not in this room that also put the show together. And it took a lot of people to do that, and a lot of collaboration virtually, which we hadn't done in the past. So I don't see any questions yet, but I'm going to go ahead and ask some that I created and am interested in hearing from you all as artists, because this is, you know, like so new and unknown territory. I really want to talk about what happened. I know one question that Rick sent me that could be potentially a good question for anyone was, what things surprised you during this process? During, you know, think about everything that happened from the moment that we knew we were going to do the show, the live version of the show, to the journey and path that happened and the digital version? What surprised you during your artistic process along the way? And that can be for anyone that wants to answer it.
Well, you know, a couple of things in terms of digital stuff. Probably, I wouldn't use the word surprise, but I would say, I'm sorry, I'm coming back a little bit. I was very pleased with the editing, the ability to edit the material that Jason Badgett did. His work was, I knew it would be great, but it surprised me at how we could put these disparate elements all out there and create them, and that he could make the magic of really truly telling the story.
Just 1 second, Rick. Can everybody make sure they're muted except for the person that's talking, just to make sure that we are not getting any feedback for Rick? Cool. Rick, can you say that again? I missed some of that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting the same feedback now.
There we go.
It wasn't as much a surprise as it was a delight, the work of Jason Badgett through this whole production. All of us put these wonderful disparate elements together, but they would have made no sense without editing. And furthermore, the editing just so enhanced the storytelling, the way that Jason used the footage, the different footage, because in many cases, like in any film, he gets several different selections and choices. Artwork by Mamuko, we had so much input of artwork by Mamuko, and everyone that did videos did several different versions of them. So I was so just pleased and overwhelmed and kind of staggered. So in that way, surprised at how strong that editing made the story. Now that I should also mention that Tristan Griffin, who did the choreography, also has a background in dance video. So his work with Jason made me think about maybe using more dance video along with dance in the actual production.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, we don't normally use editors unless we are doing a video portion of a live performance. So to have Jason present and a collaborator was completely new, at least for me, and probably for most of us. Does anyone else want to answer that question? What surprised you, or what just stood out to you in the process of going from live to a digital platform? Samaria.
Away was just how adaptable everyone was. I mean, in theater, that's something that we usually have to do, but it's usually not this drastic. And everyone just jumped on board and was ready for anything we threw at them. And it was just really beautiful to see how all of those ideas and all that artistry came together. So it was just really beautiful to see that part.
Thank you. Cool. Anybody else dying to answer that question? Yeah, Kirsten. Just a minute, Kirsten. You're still. Will you start that over, Kirsten? You were muted for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Jason, because I was really impressed with his work, and you know, that part, you know, his putting the video together for the Sea Shepherd ballad, which for the music I created for that chapter, was it chapter 4, was really you know, that was part of what helped me create my art. You know, once he put that video together, that was like, I had ideas and pieces, you know, that I knew I wanted to put into it, but then once I saw the video, that really helped me kind of, you know, direct the momentum, as it were. So Jason, you rock. And yeah, I just wanted to say that. And I think also, Audrey, beautiful work, and the costumes that Rebecca did, and the choreography and everything, I think, put together was just a really, just as Maria said, it was really beautiful to see. You know, I'm sure we're all starved for stuff to do, but still the fact that, you know, we were all like, yeah, let's do this. Let's put on a show, but that's, I guess that's artists and that's just what we do. So, but I was just grateful to be a part of it. So.
Thanks, Kirsten. Rebecca, you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, my role usually is very minimal. And to have such a bigger role in this, because I had to get Audrey's hair and makeup done, which took about 2 to 3 hours before we then had to go film. Normally I would get a character ready and then send them off to the next part of the production. And so to be there step by step and then submit this and have Jason's amazing work. I mean, it's like, as an artist, if I were to break it down and say, I'm red, you're blue, how do we make purple? And instead to have this huge array of periwinkle and lavender and lilac come out of something, and I'm only seeing the red side and you're only seeing the blue side, and then we get it all put together, and it's absolutely amazing to see all the steps and how everyone just collaborates together to make something fabulous.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an amount of trust, in any production that you do, but this was kind of more of a blind trust in a way because we're all in isolation. So it's like we really have to be clear and communicate and trust one another that we're gonna put it all together and do our parts. Which kind of brings me to the question, what kinds of things did you all as artists and creators in isolation experience? Because theater is a live thing. That's what it's built on. And, we're not necessarily all in isolation. Some artists, work best that way, but are there any challenges or anything that came up for you being in isolation and working on this project? Kirsten.
So my sister just joined, so I just wanted to say, hey, Carrie, hey, Sledge. She's like, sends her love, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Sends her love, which is so funny because nobody ever calls her Karen, but that's her name on Karen. That's her. Is that her actor name? Karen Paladin. Sorry, I don't know. Love you, sister. You're the best. Thanks for joining when I sent you the message to come on join us. But now I forgot what the question was. Hi, that's me.
Yeah,
Hi.
just being in isolation.
Oh, being in isolation.
Yeah.
For me, I was grateful to have the project to work on creatively because I haven't felt particularly creative of my own volition. Like if I was just like to sit down and like be like, oh, I'm gonna write a song. It hasn't felt like, so to have this project was really an awesome thing to kind of keep my creativity going. And yeah, I mean, because it's hard, you're here, you're usually as a musician, you're used to working with other people. I can create by myself, but to me, I like to collaborate with others. So having this when I can't get together with my band or go out and play live was really, a kind of a godsend in a way, to sort of have something to be like, okay, I have a project, I got to do this. And yeah, so.
Cool.
Thanks.
Carrie
LAC.
asked a question, actually. Thanks, Kirsten. Carrie asks, how does a new digital performance change the way you create? How does a new digital performance change the way you create? Or does it? We'll do Rick, Rebecca, Samaria, and Kirsten.
I'll start very short. I love rehearsals. I just love the development that happens in rehearsals when you're side by side with people. And so I missed that. And it was like, instead sending people off to rehearsal and then coming back and seeing what they had. So I missed that part, but I love the stuff that was coming back. And then a lot of putting it together reminded me of old days of creating sound edits to send on the road when we had our professional touring company. So it kind of took me back to early preparation part of creativity. I thought that it was a huge blessing for this project to have another month to create before we really had to stand up on our feet and say this is a finished project. I loved having the development time.
Thank you. Yeah, Samaria, and then Rebecca and Kirsten.
Oh, yeah, I think the not being all together, so it felt like things, you couldn't see all the movement, right? And so then we would come together and someone would share something. You're like, oh my gosh. So there was just constant surprises, pleasant surprises, but it was just this constant oh, I'm so used to just being, in the middle of everything. And if someone needs a prop, just, going into the shop or going down the prop hallway. And so, not being able to be that support for people in a physical way, it was just challenging. And it made me feel very far away at times. But then we would meet and you would see the work that people did. And it was just, wow. So it was really awesome, but it was kind of hard to be so hands off.
Thanks. Yeah, Rebecca.
For me, I had trouble getting the makeup just right. I have this beautiful artwork to pattern it off of, but we're not on a stage with controlled lighting, and we're not also just taking pictures. So having the movement, needing makeup and costumes and hair to read from a distance, it was just a huge challenge that I wasn't expecting. Whereas if you're even at a live performance, everyone's vision is going to be different. But when you're creating a digital project, a finished project, there were just certain specifications that I was trying to meet that were different than I've encountered before. And then the locations to film, thinking of what the theme is supposed to be. And again, you're only getting just a snippet of what that story is. So where in Lawrence can we go? What's the weather going to be like? We encountered a snake by the water. It was fun. It was crazy, but it was definitely a bigger challenge than performing something on stage or even a street performance like this was supposed to be. So fun, but a huge learning curve.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What about you, Kirsten? How did the new digital performance change the way you create?
Well, I think Rebecca kind of touched on what I was thinking is that, as performance artists, we are way more used to getting feedback from audiences and each other. And so creating sort of a vacuum is a little bit, that is a bit of a challenge because you have to sort of trust your own instincts, I guess, in that way, because you're used to being having more immediacy with the feedback. So for me, I think that was a little bit of different, so being okay, yes, this is good, I'm gonna go with this, rather than knowing immediately from the audience, even though I do anyway. But I think that was the thing that was missing for me. So
yeah, absolutely. So Liz out there says she thought that the artwork, the music, the puppetry, the costumes all created an experience that took us out of Lawrence to a mythical place. So thank you for that comment, Liz. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, our designers and everybody that worked on this, there's such strong aesthetics, story aesthetics that they were able to create from. So connected to that, from Andrea, she asked the question, can Juniper tell us about Talos and how he articulated the puppet? So Juniper, how did you control that puppet? And tell us a little bit about, your process in making it too.
Well, as an artist, I mean, I'm usually by myself, right? So working with everybody here is especially when you're forced to be by yourself, and then you get to see all these people and get to work with them. It's just I want to thank everybody in this room and everybody out there who watched the thing first. So Tal is, you know how much I love robots and stuff like that. And I like, playing with, I got all my crazy toys and stuff around here too. So it wasn't that big of a leap to just kind of make something out of cardboard. But I did want to just find stuff that I could kind of put together. And so what I did was I just kind of made like a figure out of cardboard. And then I started fleshing him out by, I don't know if you can see this, but just by putting the zip ties, got loads of zip ties. Originally it was supposed to be, I think Andrew was supposed to wear this for the helmet. So you have like this weird kind of coronavirus knobs, and then it's repeated on the actual guy. So when we do the thing out in the real world, it'll be huge, like gigantic. So I guess I thought that's gonna work. But yeah, it was fun. I don't have like all of my stuff here in Lawrence. Like half of it's in Kansas City. So I kind of had to like grab whatever, like my humidifier and, some grocery, stuff I put my fruit in, you know what I mean? It was weird, but it was cool. So yeah, there's my dude.
That's awesome. Thanks, Juniper. So I want to hear from a couple people that haven't gotten to speak yet, if they want to tell us about their process. Andrew, can you talk to us a little bit about you as a performer and singer, and just, what happened with how you filmed it?
Yeah, actually, it was a very, very different process. And I just saw that chat thread about Andrew's disappointment at not being able to wear that costume. And I have actually never seen it till this second. And I immediately regret not being able to wear it yet. Because my process, as I'm learning about acting and performing, is that I have found that when I first wore Miss Trunchbull's outfit, I found her character. When I first put on the Beast's outfit and being the Beast, okay, now I know how to stand and how to move, and my voice and the way I reacted to people as they looked at me. I really struggled with having an idea of who this character was, and how does Talos, what's his voice? How does he walk? How does he move? How would he treat the people around him? And Rick was wonderful about, this would be a moment of where you'd be condescending. This is where you're angry. This is where you're trying to be silky smooth. And those things all are good and they help, but it's as Kirsten said, singing to an audience. I'm finding that I'm learning that I need people to bounce off of to create these characters. And so when it's live again, and I think that'll really help me as a performer to define his character. It was a real challenge of making him in a vacuum, especially someone who's supposed to be the evil guy. The bad guy is always uniquely challenging. I play it a lot, apparently. It's probably the voice, and I don't know why. But so yeah, that was a challenge. That was a challenge for me. And seeing,
we have all these connecting pieces.
Yes, and seeing that helmet that he was just carrying, and the angles of the face and the way he was almost, his sneer was already built in. I mean, that changes the way I hear his voice in my head. Just seeing his artistry of that helmet, that character, changes everything. Completely redoes how I would do those scenes I recorded, just seeing that face. So yeah, it's going to be it'll be a lot of growth going from one to another.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got all these connecting pieces as theater artists that, make the collaboration come alive. So it's interesting to do it in isolation. So going back to Juniper just for a second, I just want to say that Marlo is telling us that lots of hearts and emojis came through when you were showing your puppet. Juniper, and Liz said she loved the gold vein from his foot to his body. So that's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Carrie, I'm going to just read this. Peter O'Toole said that we must spend time alone with the work to grow as artists. With this in mind, did quarantine take any of you to a new place as an artist? And then if so, where? And maybe not. Yeah, Rick.
Well, I learned to play the accordion for the University of Kansas's production of Indecent, which was canceled due to the COVID virus. And when I started noodling around with the George the Loneliest Snail, I just decided to keep playing the accordion. And so this is my debut accordion playing for a performance piece. So there you go. That was new for me. I spent hours on it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Cool. I want to hear from a couple of people that haven't gotten a chance to speak. Jason, can you tell us a little bit about your editing process? I know Jason has worked a long time as an editor and on film crews. And so I'm curious to know, how this process was different or the same in other projects that you've worked on.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, when I signed on for the project, I didn't really understand the scope and the complexity of it. I kind of thought everyone was going to create their own thing, and I just sort of stitched it all together. But it ended up being, a lot more involved, and there's a lot of elements. And I was editing like a 35-minute film, basically.
Yeah.
But that's what kind of took me by surprise. But I was just kind of going with the flow, and I didn't know what anyone was going to be sending me until I saw it and just sort of figured out how to put it all together. Like improvising with editing.
Yeah, that could be a new thing you add on your resume. Improviser editor. Yeah, we were all making the plane as we flew it in a way. Yeah, well, thank you for your hard work and awesome dedication. Audrey, you danced beautifully in the film. Do you want to talk about your experience, especially as a student in this process?
Sure. It was very different. I was kind of worried at first because I wasn't sure how it was all going to play out. But luckily, Tristan and I got to work together. We figured out Zoom meetings. And so we figured out the choreography, but when you actually go out there into the scene that you're doing, it's very different because you have like weeds, sticks, rocks that we had to kind of move around. For the vaquita, it actually turned out to be quite muddy, so we had to work around that. But I think overall it was a very good experience, something I've never done before, and I'm very happy that I got to be a part of this production.
Thanks, Audrey. We are too. You did a fabulous job, fabulous work. Yeah, all those outdoor elements. I like hearing about them because I just didn't think about that when I was watching the film of like the snake and it being muddy and things like that. That's not something as theater artists we necessarily run into being in our theater, nice dry theaters. Cool. Jeffrey Stoltz, tell us about your song. Your song is so wonderful. I want to play that song on loop. It's awesome. Tell us about, your piece and how you created it in your process.
Well, I originally signed on to play percussion, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with Rick again, and of course Kirsten. And then when I heard word that it was going to switch to a digital, I was a little freaked out by it, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And Rick, of course, is always encouraging and built my confidence back up a little bit. and then gave me the extinction piece to work on. So it was interesting words, and I had a interesting rhyme scheme. So I just kind of, it took me a little while. I was stuck with it for a little bit because it was such, unusual, rhymes and rhythms, and then just kind of started experimenting with it, and laid down some drums, and then put the Wurlitzer part to it, and overdubbed a couple of vocals, and got my wife to sing on it a little bit, and so
Gary sang on that?
Yeah, Mary's on there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't know that.
So it turned out pretty fun. So
That's so cool.
glad you liked it.
Yeah, thank you. So we're about out of time. So is there any last comments, anything you all in this room want to say about the project as we kind of wrap things up that you didn't get a chance to say? Rick and then Rebecca.
Just very briefly, we love feedback. So if you're someone that's watched this or watched part of it and you want to give some feedback, and you have an idea about something, you have another question about something, we are totally open, and we're looking forward to it, and support as well.
Yes, I would reiterate that. This is a development piece, and we're looking to develop it and make it as good as it can be next May. So any comments or questions or clarifications, if something was unclear in the story or you just wanted to say something about it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, to email us, or go to our website and find our email addresses. Claire says the music was so great. So thanks, Claire. And a big shout out to Mamuko as well. I'll let Rebecca speak and then Kirsten speak. We'll wrap it up.
I just wanted to give a big shout out to Rick, Jason, and Tristan. I think Rick is the only person who had this big overall scope and was getting all the pieces and could take the time away from what he was creating and still give direction to everyone. Huge help. And it really, I think, helped everyone to pull together what they were supposed to be doing. And Jason, I had no clue just how talented he was, but he has true artistry. From Tristan, who was creating this choreography with an idea of how he wanted it to be filmed, and then he could collaborate with Jason and say, let's put this together. But I sent in so much video feed, and for Jason to be able to take that and take what Rick has instructed and Tristan has instructed and to create, I mean, he really had artistry there. Chopping things apart, pulling pieces together, and just the seamless way that it came through. I was absolutely amazed, and I love working with Jason. Thank you all so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Rebecca. We think you're wonderful, and thanks for working with us and taking on all the different roles you did that were unexpected. Amy says thank you for all your hard work on the project to everyone out there. And Megan says hi. And so we'll finish up with Kirsten.
Honored to work with everybody. I want to thank the Art Center really for, even when everything was sort of like the sky was falling and you're like, how are we gonna, and you guys made it happen like you always do. The Art Center always makes it happen. And I just want to give you the Art Center a shout out. Great people from the top down. I've already said how great the dancing was, and working with everybody. I want to say, Jeff, you are such an incredible songwriter. I love the song. And Juniper, that work is, I can't understand how you make the facial expression out of cardboard and you make it so real and so much emotion in it. And I'm in awe of all of you, and just thank the Art Center for allowing us the opportunity, and giving us the opportunity to create during this time when, if we hadn't had this, who knows, we're artists, we need to create. So thank you, Art Center. You are the heart of the community. So
Thanks, Kirsten. As always, I mean, theater artists are my favorite. They really are. And I think theater artists rise to the occasion of when, you know, a crisis happens or something happens on stage live, and they just, that's what we do. So this is a project that was wrapped in that in a different way. And so I really appreciate everybody's talent. A special thank you to Mamuko for the original work and the idea. It really came from Mamuko. So if you're out there, thank you so much, Mamuko. And then Marlo says, Megan is saying, Rebecca, you are wonderful. So just wanted to feed that through. And Jessica Ray, thanks for being on this with us. She says, grateful for all these humans and beautiful talents that feed amazing art into our bloodline. Carrie says, happy tears and such pride. So much positivity, and we thank you all for being out there to watch the things that we create, and we hope that it resonates or speaks to you in some way. And to reiterate, yeah, please contact us if you have any comments or questions. And so if everybody would unmute and just say a goodbye, that would be awesome. So we can have all our, we'll try to do all our voices at once, which doesn't really work in Zoom, but we're gonna try it anyway. Jessica, if you could help us, yeah, that would be great. Thanks to Marlo too, before we run away. Thanks, Marlo and Jessica. All right, here we go. I'm gonna count down and we're gonna say goodbye. 1, 2, 3.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.